Good morning and welcome to the JMM 2025 Insight Series. I'm Jane Morgan, and today I am joined by Tim Goldsmith, a non-executive director at Pantera Lithium. Good morning, Tim.
Hi, Jane. Nice to see you again.
So in terms of today's agenda, we're really excited to discuss with you some important developments in the lithium industry recently, as well as some relevant M&A industry thematics for big oil and mining companies, the new Trump administration trade and policy platform, and sort of how this may intersect with Pantera Lithium's strategic ambitions. So, look, let's get into this. Could you provide us with an overview of recent developments in the lithium market, as well as the longer term outlook for this critical mineral?
Sure, Jane. And lithium is an industry which I think an awful lot of commentators are still struggling with. And there's a very good reason for that. It's still a very young industry. We've gone from an industry with basically zero demand, and it's been growing at 25% per year for a lot of years. And frankly, there's every good reason why it'll grow at 25% a year for a lot more years. So if we just break that down and we think demand for a second, the electrification of the world. Electrical vehicles have obviously been the first phase of it, but energy storage as well. And everything which we're hearing with data centers, all of those things all point to a world where we need more electricity. And lithium ion batteries are a very effective way of dealing with it. So I think we can see a very clear pathway why the 25% per annum growth we've been having in demand doesn't stop anytime soon or even in the medium or long term. Then on the other side, you've got supply. And I think we've learned from the journey that there is a lot of lithium all around the world. And what brings on new lithium supply is incentivized prices or government subsidies, not much else. So when you're in a place where you think the price is low, which is where I think it is today and has been last year, it's very difficult to see that as an incentivized price to bring new supply on. So therefore, you end up with demand continuing to grow, supply not. The other confusion to add into this industry is that China 10 years ago set out to control the industry and have been extremely successful and done an excellent job of doing that. It was a strategic move and one which they've executed perfectly. So now you have some in the West a little bit nervous about the fact that most lithium in the world passes through China at some stage. We've got a lithium market which I think is still going to keep on growing dramatically at 25% per annum of demand. Supply will come in big lumps, and it's always going to be difficult to know exactly when it will come in. So I think that's going to lead to very volatile times where the price will be up and will be down. I've been involved in the industry for over 8 years now. I've seen two lithium winters and two lithium summers, if you want to call them that. I can tell you the summers are far more fun than the winters, and the winters seem to go on forever. And I think we're in the deep, dark bits of one now. But obviously, the future will tell us that clearer.
Well, look, it's interesting that as well. So we've seen some renewed M&A interest in the lithium market from the global oil and mining majors. I mean, what are you seeing through your network and on the ground in the US?
So let me talk about the oil and gas and mining, the big guys first, then I'll come on to the US, I think. So firstly, I think it's part of the industry maturing that we've got people like Exxon, people like Rio Tinto coming in as part of the industry of the future. I think that that's giving a credibility, if you want, that this is an industry which is here to stay when those big guys come in. So I think that's fantastic. I think the M&A, which they have done, opportunistic. I guess what I just mentioned previously was I think that we're at a low point in the cycle. Therefore, that's the time to be buying. And I think that some of this M&A has been absolutely that. The great thing about these companies is they have balance sheets which can invest through a cycle much better. The negative in that, though, is we won't get the disclosures in the depth that we would have got if juniors were developing these mines. But that's just the offset of it. Now, if I swing to the US, and particularly the Smackover, where Pantera is, um, it's all about the fact that the Smackover has a grade which is higher than you see in the typical oil field brine. And when you think it through without too many assumptions, you can absolutely see why the quality of the brines in an oil field like the Smackover can be as high a quality as good projects in the lithium triangle. So therefore, I think we're seeing a huge amount of interest in the Smackover area, although it is fair to say lithium as a generalization does not have the interest it had a few years ago. But I think what will always happen is the better places will still continue to receive that. interest. And I do think we're getting that in the Smackover. And I guess it's no better demonstrated than the fact Exxon and Equinor are both in the Smackover, both in Arkansas.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are big market cap companies over there as well. So, look, I mean, from that standpoint, then, how does Pantera Lithium differentiate itself in this evolving market where these larger players are aggressively securing lithium resources?
In a word, agility. We are a small organization. We think like a small organization, and we can act and execute rapidly. Probably no better example of that than the fact we actually went in and got our land holding whilst others are looking around. Um, I've said it many times over the journey since I've been involved. We never should have been allowed to get in there and get this land holding, which we've got, but we were agile. We sniffed an opportunity. We got in there. We executed. We got it. I think that we then now look at the land we've got and see it in an agile way as well as how we can actually turn this into production in a modularized way and make it far quicker than others will do. So I think it's all about agility. When it comes to things like DLE, again, the experience which we've had in other parts of the world means we can move an awful lot quicker than what we see of these large companies. Now, I don't want to be negative about these large companies. It is fantastic what they're doing, but they will do it in a far more process driven fashion and will be a lot slower than we'll be able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, look, I'm changing pace a little bit here, but so given the renewed focus under the Trump administration to reshore the US industrial base and capability, how is Pantera Lithium positioning itself to take advantage of these developments?
Well, firstly, our asset is obviously in America, which is very helpful in that regard. I guess the second piece is there was obviously a fair bit of support in the previous administration through the IRA. We don't know exactly how that will develop and change in the Trump administration, but it does seem as if there's going to be very strong support for it and very strong support for ensuring there are supply chains which cover US. So the fact we are based there, and the fact that battery plants, etc., are being built nearby are all going to be huge attributes. So we still need to see how it does play out, but we feel very positively that there will be great support from government and from the Trump administration, but obviously we shall wait and see.
Well, look, it does look like the Trump administration is rolling out a comprehensive range of policies to support this US critical mineral sector. So just further to that then, so how is Pantera positioning itself to take advantage of these support measures to sort of further advance the 100% owned Pantera Lithium brine project in that Smackover formation that you talked about earlier?
Yeah, so we've obviously spoken with local government and federal government to understand how things are going. There is an element of needing to let a bit of dust settle as the administration does get in, and they seem to be doing an awful lot of things on a lot of different fronts that it's probably not surprising that clarity hasn't been given yet on day one. But certainly, we would very much hope that some of the opportunities which were there previously through the IRA and through funding opportunities that the DoD, DOJ will also exist. There's obviously, of course, what tariffs to other countries might do as well, which we'll need to see play out. So there's a lot to play out there. What I will say is the relations which we, and not just us, but all of the Arkansas lithium brine companies have with government is spectacular. The government of Arkansas is super supportive of a new industry emerging in their state, as are the communities in which our land holding is based. So we spent a lot of time there. And again, it is a very supportive community. I guess this goes to the fact that this is oil and gas lands, which have been used to these sort of developments over 100 years. So we are seen absolutely as a friend and someone that can be worked with, which I can tell you is very rare in the global mining industry and any commodity anywhere in the world.
Well, actually, just on that then, so let's just talk about the industries as it stands. So the lithium industry is seeing increasing collaboration between miners, battery manufacturers, automakers. So is Pantera looking to explore any strategic partnerships that perhaps could accelerate this path to production?
Um, Sure, we're talking with all of those and many more potential collaborators, I guess. Um, the the guiding light we always try to bring to any of these conversations is it in the shareholders' interest of Pantera that we do such a transaction? We are sitting at the low end of what we think is a very strong future market. We've got a valuable land holding in a great part of the world with very supportive stakeholders. So, yes, we do absolutely want to have those conversations. We are having those conversations, and we are very keen to explore where they can go, but only if it's in the best interest of Pantera shareholders.
And so on that then, so what recent milestones has Pantera Lithium achieved, and how do these position the company for success in this rapidly evolving lithium landscape?
Sure. Well, 2024 was primarily about gaining the land holding. So we only got this asset into Pantera in, I think it was February of 24. And at that stage, there was a few thousand acres of land holding. We went through a very rigorous campaign to add to that land holding, and we're now over 26,000 acres. And in the mining sector, what we have to do to get this land is very different than what you have to do in a sort of oil field. I don't know if you've watched the Landman series. It's not quite the same, but there's certainly, this is where you have to negotiate lease by lease, acre by acre. So that was a very, very major job which was undertaken last year to get us a land holding which we believe is significant, absolutely in the heart of the Arkansas part of the Smackover where you want to be. We also have a further similar size of exclusive area of interest where we can go and double the size of our land holding. So that was the primary object of last year. Now, this year is to take that further and to go forward and actually get to resource and beyond.
Wonderful. Well, actually, if you can elaborate on some of those highlights and news flow that investors can look forward to for the next 12 months, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Sure. And the first is subsurface work being undertaken absolutely at the moment. And the drive of that is to come up with 3 locations for us to drill a first well. That's number one. Number two will be drilling of that well, and then understanding from that what we then need to do to go and get this into a resource. At the same time, work out how we can bring a pilot plant or get some DLE going to prove the pathway through to getting towards a modular production route. In amongst that, we continue to talk with strategics and others. I guess the overarching point, Jane, which I've tried to say in probably all of the questions which I've answered, is the land holding we have is super valuable. We know it's super valuable. We know it's actually cost us pretty much all of our market capitalization, and probably more than our market capitalization today, just in the costs of acquiring it. Because when you do acquire this land, you pay up front to the leaseholder for the first 5 years. We've done that. And so that's our market cap there. It is very valuable land. We want to make sure that we maximize what we do have, knowing that these big oil companies are all sitting around us, staring at us. So it's a very exciting 12 months ahead and beyond, I think, as we try to take this forward. Obviously, we're there to look after shareholders, and we will do whatever we can to get the best return for our shareholders.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Tim, for the insights today. Definitely been thought-provoking, delving into that global lithium market, M&A activity, as well as Pantera Lithium. So thank you again, and we look forward to hosting you next time.
Thanks, Jay.